Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm Claire Jones, if we haven't already met. I'm an author and publisher committed to changing the world for the better through inclusive stories and practices. And we are jumping on today for my Authorvision Facebook Live series, where I interview the amazing and inspiring authors in my network to discuss the visions that have shaped our lives and careers. So if you're joining us, please like, comment, share below. Let us know that you're here. And today I'm talking to Julie. Yay!
Yay. Thank you so much for having me, Claire. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, I feel like I was on your podcast ages ago, but we're finally here on my podcast.
I know, I know. How does time go by so fast? It's hard to
Man,
imagine.
I don't know. I don't know. That's a question for the scientists, not me.
Right? I know. I this time what it can I don't even know what the word is because it's a little too scientific for me. So we should talk about something else.
Well, that's a great segue. Let's jump into your backstory, something that I'm sure you know a lot about because you lived it and experienced it.
Yeah.
How did you get to where you are today?
I started my career as a preschool teacher and then I moved to work in corporate. I worked for an educational company for many years, and then I moved to another educational company for many years. And certainly both companies did a very good job at training their executives. By the time I left the second company, I was the chief innovation officer that oversaw all of our contracting nationwide. And also, I did a lot of the developing of the programs.
Mm,
But the one thing that I became very good at is creating new business lines for the company, marketing them, being able to grow, create that business pipeline, marketing pipeline, gain clients. So that's been something that was incredibly helpful. But I also felt the desire to be able to kind of fill my entrepreneur cup. I've always had a little side hustle going
mm,
on. And I knew that someday I would go out and do something on my own. I got certified as a coach in 2016, 17, and did things here and there, nothing too big. And then the pandemic hit. By the way, next week is going to be my fourth anniversary,
wow.
as it is for everybody, right? But
Yeah.
the day that I was laid off is the day that I said, "Oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and help women." I
Mm,
wanted to do executive coaching because as I climbed the corporate ladder, the higher you get, the less you see of other women. And I
mm,
wanted to really, help them gain the confidence because that's the one thing I kept hearing. I wish I was as confident. I wish I could do blah, blah, blah. And by the way, I'm not special. I
mm,
don't have more confidence than anybody else. What
mm,
I do have is the ability to continue to keep going when it's hard. And
mm,
by the way, sometimes I don't feel like it, but I do it. I also know that that consistent action or doing the thing scared is the thing that allows you to continue to grow. And when you fail, make sure that you take the information from that failure and recalibrate and keep going. So that's what I wanted to do. But somewhere along that first year, individuals would come to me and say, "Hey, Julie, I'm building my business. How do you do this? How about that? Do I need this for my business? Do I need that?" So all of these things kind of like brought me to, wait a minute, maybe I need to do business coaching. And
yeah,
here we are. So that's
yeah.
how I became a business coach. I also started a podcast and I'm an author, TEDx speaker, and that's kind of the journey that I've been on for the past 4 years.
Mm. I would love to ask, what exactly is your definition of confidence?
Yeah. So my definition of confidence is the intersection of consistent action
Mm,
and the intersection of consistent action and creating the habits to do that action, even though you're scared.
yeah.
I believe that for many of us, right, when we become scared, we're paralyzed. And
Mm,
then we start to kind of either not do it, beat ourselves up for not doing the thing, and then go into that spiral of compare and despair. And when
mm,
we do that, then we're not taking action or moving in the direction that we want.
yeah.
It's hard, discomfort, uncomfortableness, doing the thing that it's hard. it's not fun for everyone, but I want to normalize for people that I feel it, you feel it, because we're human.
Hmm.
And what we need to kind of train ourselves into is that when we are feeling that scare or, oh my gosh, I can't do this, that's your cue to say, I may not be able to do it all, but I'm going to take one tiny step forward. I'm
Mm.
going to take one simple step and get the evidence like, wait a minute, I think I can. I think I
Yeah.
can. And that builds your momentum.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people have the misconception that confidence requires no fear.
No,
You
confidence
know?
requires courage.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people look at people who they think are more confident than they are, and they're like, oh, I could never do that because I still have this scared little person inside of me
Yeah,
that's telling me I can't do that. And
absolutely.
I love that your definition because I kind of think of it as like luck too,
Mhm.
because my definition of luck is where preparation meets opportunity.
Ooh, preparation meets. Oh my gosh, you should trademark that. That's so good.
I heard it somewhere else, so I don't think I have dibs on it. But
Okay,
um
well, it's amazing though. It really
yeah,
is good. And sometimes we are not confident in what we're able to do because we also didn't prepare.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's creating those consistent habits that I think is
Mhm.
part of that preparation
Yeah.
process that we're talking about here.
Absolutely. And now you're talking my favorite topic. It's other than confidence, my other favorite topic is habits.
Well, let's back up a little bit and ask the question of like, what was the vision that kept you driving along this journey?
Hmm. Um, yeah, so here's the vision. At one point, even though I was a senior executive, I was in the C-suite, the company that I worked for last went through some changes or transitions.
Mm,
Um, and leadership changed. And here's the thing. I I wanted to call the shots.
mhm,
Even though I had an input in calling the shots in the company, but I also wanted to be the person that the buck stopped with, right? Um, also, when the company transitioned, we had a new person kind of take the helm. And again, fantastic, great woman. But we as women have the requirement to help each other and
mhm,
not kind of have that like distrust of one another.
mm.
That, by the way, happens. And I'm not saying I didn't have that. I was a, can I say, shitty
Yeah,
manager at
absolutely.
one point, right? At one point in my career, when I first started my first promotion into, being a supervisor, I wasn't great. And I had to learn from what I wanted, and I had to become the kind of boss that I wanted for myself.
Mm,
But at first, nobody teaches you to be that.
mm,
You have to kind of figure it out.
mm,
And what really led me to do what I'm doing now is that I don't want to have to tell someone, hey, I need to run to the grocery store or I need to go to the pharmacy and I'll be back. And and I had not been in a position in which I was being held to that standard for a long time.
mm,
Right. Like I'm not in kindergarten. Don't ask me. Right. And I want to call the shots. I want to call the shots in every step of the way.
mm, mm. Yeah, I mean, we have to really, I mean, most of our journeys are stepping into that position that we wish we
Yeah.
had along the way,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Guide, that teacher, that mentor, that friend, even that we wish we had
Yeah.
along the way, because we
Mhm.
are so aware of that hole
Yeah.
in our experience that we're like, we don't want other people to go through that. So,
Yeah.
how can
100%.
I fix it?
Yeah. How can you fix it, right? I think that this is the thing that we need to explore more and be curious about these things because sometimes we don't even ask ourselves these things.
Mm,
you know?
Hmm. Yeah. So I want to go back to the habit thing that you said earlier. Is that one of the main lessons that you took away from this?
Yeah. So, habits are the thing that can be very elusive for many of us.
Mm,
Habits are the things that can really either help make us or break us.
mm,
And I know that I've had a lot of breaks because of my bad habits and things that just become very normal. The bad habits, I like to refer to them as our frenemies, right? We're kind of stuck with them and we sometimes like are more familiar with them and they're comfortable, but obviously they're also our enemies because they're not serving us. And for me, I had to figure out how to create the habits that were going to move me forward. And
mm,
how do you, right, create these habits that then, because when you have the right habits and you're doing the things that you want, you become more confident, right?
yes.
Confidence doesn't come again, like we said, from that feeling. It's that courage of doing the brave thing, of doing the hard thing, of doing the thing that you've never seen yourself do,
Hmm.
and now you're gaining the evidence that you're doing it.
Hmm.
So that is one of the things that I incredibly feel that I reached, right? Like, what is that intersection? What do I need to do? And how do I need to show up? Who do I need to be as
Hmm.
well?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if we cannot envision what we want, what our vision is, and where we want to be, then it's very difficult to create today the actions that are going to get us there.
And I think what underlines a lot of that is self-trust,
Mhm.
because you have to trust that A, you'll look for room for improvement,
Mhm.
and B, you'll take the actions to the improvement, and C, that even if the actions don't end up working, you can still move forward in some way.
Yeah. The self trust and self love, self everything, right? It's something that we often talk about, but we don't talk about how do we get to that self trust. And
Yeah.
self trust, again, it's something that we have to have evidence that we've done it. And for most of us, the evidence that we tend to focus on is how we don't do it.
Yes. Absolutely.
We focus on I messed up.
Hmm.
I didn't do it. I failed. And again, I've done that. I do that still. I'm not perfect. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I am, today I was like, "Oh my god, why did I do this? Like what the heck is wrong with me?" Who does that, right? And that weighs heavy in our minds when we start to say, you're this, you're not enough, that's what ends up happening and is very difficult. We lose faith in ourselves, Claire. We
Exactly.
lose faith, and therefore that self-trust is not there. And it becomes very difficult for you to move on.
Yeah. I have to praise past Claire all the time.
I
Like,
love that. I love that.
I'm like, oh, thank goodness, past Claire remembered to get coffee creamer.
Oh my gosh. I say that, okay. I love to praise past Julie because not only does she clean the kitchen at night,
Yeah.
she sets the coffee up for the next day. And
Yeah.
when I come downstairs, I'm like, "Oh, Julie, I love you so much. Thank you for
Yeah.
making this."
Exactly. And
Because
so,
it kind of like starts in a good thing, but we don't do that enough. And
yeah.
nobody taught us, right? Like we kind of
Um,
figure this out and I stumbled onto it because like, oh, okay. And then I heard someone talk about it and then I worked with a coach that reiterated. And then I started to like, okay, wait, maybe I need to do this.
mhm.
Maybe I need to do that. And then we start, right? But nobody says, hey, make sure that you give yourself credit. Make sure that you go into your own horn. Make sure that you remind yourself how good you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever I'm confronted with a decision nowadays, I always think of like, how is future Claire going to think about
Yep.
this decision that I'm making now?
100%.
And I often forget that past Claire made that decision. So then present Claire is
Oh,
just pleasantly surprised that she has
yeah.
creamer in the fridge,
Yeah.
or she cleaned her, kitchen sink or
Yep.
whatever it is. I'm like, oh, right. Good job.
Yeah, and and then what happens is if we get the evidence in one area of our life, then it becomes easier to get it in other areas as well. Because we're like, oh, if I did that, I could probably do this.
Hmm. Hmm. Any other lessons you want to talk about, or do you want to go straight to the practical of like the tips and tools you use
Mm.
to stay sane throughout this journey?
I think the biggest thing that I want to take away from this conversation and from any conversation is that we really need to realize that change is going to happen
Mm,
no matter what.
absolutely.
And you can decide what type of change you want, what type of new life, what type of identity, because all of that is something that we can create and we can redefine, and
Hmm.
nothing is written in stone. You're not broken. You're not incapable. Everything that we set our mind to can be done as long as we're consistent, as long as we stay the course, as long as we have the right resources. And many of us don't, we think, oh, I've never changed. I could never do that. But yet we have. If you look back at Claire 10 years ago, are you any different from 10 years ago?
Oh yeah, eons.
Yeah. So this time is going to happen. Change is going to happen. Set yourself up for success.
Yeah. And I think it's really important too of how you approach change, because there's change that we're in charge of and there's change
Mhm.
that we're not in charge of.
Oh, yes, of course.
And being able to approach both forms in
Yeah.
a positive way and a creative way has
Mhm.
been a game changer for me.
Yeah,
Because
I
I used to
agree.
think of it as like an affront of like, well, these things changed
Mhm.
against my will, right?
Mm,
Or because I was not in control of it.
yeah.
And that's a bad thing. So I'm going to react to the change in a
Mhm.
bad way
Yes. Agreed. Agreed.
instead of being like, oh, what can I do with?
Yeah. That's the concept too, Claire. If you think about your brain as a computer,
Hmm.
when we ask the right question, we get the right answer. And, when we say to ourselves, and there's so much power in our words, right? When we say, I can't do it. I've never done that. I don't know how people do it. Like, yeah, your brain starts to believe that.
Yeah.
But then if you say to yourself, wait a minute, how can I do that? What can I do to help me solve that? What what are my like and then your brain starts to kind of go in and like "Okay, let me search for the answer to that question, right? That's
Hmm.
how our brain is wired.
Hmm.
And it's very important. I actually, interestingly enough, this week on the podcast, I had Barbara Aerosmith on, and she did a TED Talk. She has a book, and this is her platform. She is the woman who changed her brain. At a
Hmm.
very young age, she heard her kindergarten teacher tell her mom, she's never going to learn, she's never going to amount to anything. And
Wow.
for many years, that's the story she was telling herself.
Wow.
Now, her mom believed more in her, right? But she learned to rewire her brain, learned to create new neural pathways and
Hmm.
use that neuroplasticity
Hmm.
to then leverage that she now helps other families that have kids that would have difficulty learning.
Hmm.
And look how successful she's been. She became an author. She has been on TEDx stage, has continued to have success after success. But we have to believe that we can do it. And if we
Yeah.
don't believe in ourselves, there has to be somebody else that we can borrow that belief from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any quick everyday habits that you have to support you in this?
Here's one. I can tell you that if I don't stay hydrated, I get loopy, number one. One of my other habits as well, and this is something that I learned from Dr. BJ Fogg. As you know, I'm a tiny habits coach,
Hmm.
and this is the one habit that he talks about in the book, and most of us tiny habits coaches really use. And that is that when my feet hit the ground on the floor, and it could be that I'm running to the bathroom or taking the dogs out, the first thing I will say to myself is like, it's going to be a great day.
Mm,
And by the way, anytime that we want to create a new habit or that we want to stay consistent, our brain changes when we feel good. So when
mm,
I say that to myself, or when I fill my water bottle and I say, I celebrate, oh, good job, Julie. You filled up your water. Good job when you brought it to the
yeah.
desk. Good
Yeah.
job. Right.
Yeah.
Because you're reinforcing that behavior. The same thing for me when I tell myself, and I actually don't tell it just to myself, I tell my dogs, I'm like, boys, it's going to be a great day, and they're all excited, and then that makes me feel good, and then it's gonna be a great day, right?
Mhm.
So those are the 2 very fundamental habits that are pretty much the ones that I stick to a lot. Now, of course, there's other things. I read, I journal. I've been actually working at the habit, and I've always journaled, let's say, always journaled here and there, but I'm working at the habits of doing morning pages.
Mm,
And I don't know, if the listeners and viewers are not sure what morning pages are, but they're Julia Cameron, her book, The
yes.
Artist Way.
Yeah.
She talks about how when you wake up, just grab a journal and start journaling. Just let it flow, let it flow, let it flow. And, she goes a little deeper, but I have found that I become a little more creative as well because I'm also dumping all the garbage that's in my brain.
Yes.
And
Yes.
sometimes we don't realize it's kind of like going back to a computer. Your brain is running all these programs in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So those are habits that I definitely ones that help me along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I will just add one more piece of fact to this conversation. Positive feedback is 100 times more effective than negative feedback.
Yeah.
So do without what you will, audience.
I love it. I love it.
This is powerful stuff that we're talking about here today. And audience, we definitely encourage you to share your own thoughts and feelings and insights with us as well. We'd love to know how visions and experiences like these have impacted you in your own lives.
Mhm.
So special
So
thanks to
good.
Julie for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, Claire, thank you so much for just having a platform to have these in-depth discussions that the more that we talk about them,
Absolutely.
um, I was that person that is probably one of your viewers that
Mm,
all of a sudden heard somebody's like, "Oh, wait a minute, what does she mean by that?" And then you kind of get the ball rolling to create the change, to investigate, to invest in yourself. So this platform is incredibly important in having these conversations. It's a great tool for all.
thank you. I always say that they're like mini therapy sessions.
Oh, so good. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Well, send me your bill for therapy. I like it.
It's a give and take. It's a give and take.
I know. You're amazing. You
Thank
are
you.
doing some incredible work.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, please comment, like, subscribe, check out Linktree/Claire Joins for my links. And then where can folks find out more about you?
Well, I am Julie DeLucca Collins, and all of the platforms make sure that you use DeLucca Collins, not just DeLucca or not just Collins. You can slide into my DM and all the social media platforms. Also, if you want to go to my website, is goconfidentlycoaching.com, and the podcast is Casa de Confidence,
Mm,
your home for all things confidence.
I love that. I'll make sure the links are readily available as well. And until next time, please remember that you all have extraordinary stories to share, and I'm rooting for you. We're rooting for you as you use them to change the world for the better. Take care, guys.
Bye.